In one of the most interesting turn of events, I think, in possibly all of Jujutsu Kaisen history, the person to arrive and save the show against Sukuna isn't Hikari, it isn't Yuji, it's resident Black All-Star Miguel. Now, we'll get into whether this is a great or not great thing later into the video, but without a doubt, Gege Akutami is truly pulling out all of the stops in order to give the protagonist cast literally any chance at all against the King of Curses, who has thoroughly proved he is more than too much of a match for anyone left in Shinjuku at this point. Miguel, though, despite being a wild card, is a character that's responsible for training Okotsu Yuta and bringing him closer to being a more polished sorcerer, as well as holding off a supremely powerful character like Gojo Satoru, although we'll discuss if the black rope made the big difference in that fight or not. But in regards to Miguel in general, in order to see if he has any chance at all of lasting any longer than a chapter against the King of Curses, let's get into this from the very beginning. If you haven't already, make sure you hit that like button, subscribe if you want to see more content like this, and most importantly, thank you for watching. Miguel has his origins as one of the only foreign sorcerers we're introduced to throughout the length of the series. There are lore reasons for this, describing cursed energy as a naturally rare occurrence in the world, and Japan is only so rife with it due to Tengen's barrier and influence over the country. So it's not out of ordinary for people like Miguel to be one of a kind. But the most interesting thing is how capable someone like Miguel is despite growing up outside of the peak developments of sorcery. Born in Africa, Miguel was raised in a small shaman village where it's assumed the people around him practiced traditional sorcery. Almost similar to how Nobara Kugasaki would have described her more basic and occult version of the straw doll technique that her grandma used. There isn't much known about Miguel's village, except for the fact that they're responsible for the creation of the Black Rope Curse Tool, a weapon imbued with cursed energy and crafted over decades of time that mimics the ability of the inverted spear of heaven. The Black Rope is able to disrupt a victim's curse technique to the point even the strongest sorcerer of the modern era, Gojo Satoru, was unable to stop its effects, completely interrupting his limitless power and forcing Gojo to bring the fight with Miguel into close quarters instead of just dusting him from the beginning. The biggest question that most people have, considering we haven't exactly seen much of Miguel past Jujutsu Kaisen 0, was his performance against Gojo a fluke? Something that could never be recreated again. Perhaps due to the story being so new and introducing all these ideas, Gege may have just abandoned Miguel's power level as a serious threat and is more of a plot staller basically. But there are even small hints as far back as Jujutsu Kaisen 0 that do imply Miguel was barely taking the battle with Gojo seriously, something his allies do berate him for. Even though, realistically, Miguel's job was just to hold Gojo in the area and allow Geto to attack Yuta. Miguel's hidden strength is something Gojo would be more than privy to thanks to the 6 eyes. And Gojo does specifically note Miguel as a problem before the Black Rope is even introduced into their encounter. Not only is Miguel the one and only person out of a myriad of options Gojo potentially had to trust with molding a top-tier special grade like Okotsu Yuta, Miguel could potentially have a curse technique that just went unused against Gojo, which is even more impressive if you think about it, that Miguel didn't feel the need to use that technique in order to survive. Again, we may never know what the outcome between Gojo vs Miguel would have been without the Black Rope, but the amount of damage that Miguel sustains from the supposedly gut-wrenching physical strikes of Gojo do not go unnoticed. Both Yuta and Hikari, two of the strongest characters in the series, admit to barely being able to handle one punch from the Honored One. And although his striking strength is probably diluted by the rope's interference, Miguel leaving the encounter with little to no damage at all is an absolutely outstanding durability feat. But without drifting too far off into headcanon, what can Miguel actually do against Ryomen Sukuna from what we know? Sukuna, mind you, that is currently on the incline thanks to hitting a Black Flash on Maki. The King of Curses seems to have easily used reverse curse technique at an accelerated rate to heal from every attack Kusakabe just landed on him, so it's only a matter of time until Malevolent Shrine returns. The one thing it seems Miguel may have going for him, besides durability, is also speed, as whatever kind of trick Miguel pulled was enough to allow the foreigner to perception blitz the King of Curses, at least temporarily in order to save Wee Wee from certain death. This would have been a heavy blow to the protagonist team, as Wee Wee is their primary source of transport to and from the Shoko Recovery Bay, which is like our only hope of getting much needed help like Yuta, Maki, and Yuji back into the fight. Because if you don't believe in Miguel here, that's basically our only hope for survival, other than Hikari defeating Arame and showing up, of course, which we do need to hope and pray for, gentlemen and gentle ladies, because a song of ice and fire is literally not even close to a handleable tragedy at this very moment. Listen, whether you believe Miguel showing up in this moment is Gege pulling at straws to keep the Sukuna fight going or not, while it does seem hopeless at this point that anyone could hope to fight Sukuna on equal ground, Miguel may be bringing more than just fisticuffs to the battle. A lot of people's issues with Miguel's arrival is we haven't heard hide nor hair of him this entire arc, and randomly he just pops up in the nick of time. But with risk of coming off as a Gege glazer, here's a potential analysis. Miguel was not only training Yuta, but preparing a potential trap or weapon to specifically weaken Sukuna and keep him in a reasonable power level to still have a chance. We know the amount of planning that went into this Sukuna boss fight was massive, and it's possible we are still seeing the backup plans play out one by one. This, would be plan E or F by this point, and I can understand that this is getting a bit old. However, it's not like we haven't known Sukuna was an absolute tank, someone who was always going to be able to cook pretty much anybody besides Gojo. While we're all hoping the thing that takes Sukuna out isn't some kind of plot MacGuffin or Deus Ex Machina, putting Miguel in the ring may have been the best possible way to accomplish that. Regardless of how little we've seen of him, or Miguel kind of arriving out of nowhere, as the editor comment mentions, the character who was able to contend against Satoru Gojo on equal footing. Again, there are always ways to debunk that statement and claim Miguel would not have been able to handle an unlimited void or full-powered Gojo uninhibited by the Black Robe. But until we see what this fully written and unretconned Miguel can do, nothing is set in stone. For all we know, he has an OP curse technique and maybe a domain expansion. With how little we know, unfortunately, we can only really look towards the facts of Gojo acknowledging his strength and Miguel potentially just playing around with the Honored One while they were fighting. Never once did Miguel use a curse technique, or really fight too hard, which at this point could reveal him to be a secret foreign unregistered special grade, which, being one of the only of his kind in the outside world to unlock cursed energy, isn't that crazy. Or, with all of the time he was absent, Miguel was able to concoct a whole nother black rope to keep Sukuna disrupted, which is also another helpful asset. I wouldn't even be mad at that. And there's the potential of Miguel and his village creating some new kind of special curse tool specifically designed to weaken or hurt Sukuna. Now, that in itself would probably be a plot convenience, and it definitely would strike me just as suspiciously as Kamutoke holding no other purpose than existing to be confiscated by Higuruma and mess that plan up. But this is a Miguel analysis, not my thought piece. I'm sure there's people that hate Miguel showing up and will even be mad I didn't immediately insult this writing choice. But as per usual, I'll hold my tongue and just see what happens till the end. Thank you so much for watching. If you want more of my unfiltered thoughts on the recent JJK chapters, I stream every Friday and Saturday discussing and reviewing shonen developments. Miguel is a welcome surprise, but definitely a surprise. So we're just gonna have to see where this goes and what Miguel brings to the table. If you haven't already, please make sure you hit that like button if you enjoyed the video, and subscribe if you want to see more content like this. Please consider hitting one of the end screen videos if you want to continue your binge, and I'll catch you guys in the next one. Peace.